Hey again, guys. Day 4. I hope you guys are doing well and hanging in there. So today we're going to continue with pails and rails a little bit. Yesterday I know was probably the first introduction for some of you. For others, I know we've worked on it a little bit, but so I want you to keep in mind that yesterday's kind of hip 90-90 position on the floor is just a starting point. So if it was extremely difficult, or you didn't even try it because you're like, I'm not going to be able to get down there, that's fine. If you got down there and tried it and felt like you weren't getting kind of productive tension, today we're going to cover some kind of things that you can do to basically alleviate that and actually get into better positions and get better results. So again, yesterday was just here's the position we're working from. Today is, okay, let's be real. How can we modify it so that you can be productive in it? This isn't about trying to get good at hip 90-90. This is about trying to find the specific lines of tension that are limiting some movement there. So, where in the capsule are you the tightest? That's what's going to be basically limiting your movement. So we don't just want to get into the position and try to go. To be the most efficient, we want to try to find that specific line of tension. So you need to kind of take some ownership here of what does my body need, not just, well, I'm doing this because Steve said to get in hip 90-90. So today I'll cover some things you can do from the floor to alleviate some of that discomfort and hopefully, unfortunately, introduce a different kind of discomfort, but a more productive discomfort. And then I'll also show you some seated variations. So if getting to the floor is a little too much for you, you can do these from a seated position. So let's get started with the floor stuff. So like I said, I'll cover what I run into first, and then go from there. So on my left side, my left hip is a bit limited in external range of external rotation. So as you can see, if I try to sit up in that perfect 90-90, my knee doesn't even come to the floor. So this capsule or something in here is so tight that even gravity can't pull my knee down. So from this position, which I used for the first couple days I did this, I would push into it, make it work, and the next day I would feel kind of like some swelling or just kind of like tension in my knee. And it makes sense because I'm putting torque on this knee. When I push from my foot, I'm twisting on this knee because it's not kind of in a good spot. So what are some tweaks to do? The first thing that I would want you to do is just rearrange your body a little bit. So if I'm stubborn and I try to force myself to use this position, I can run into issues, which I did. So like I said before, take some ownership here and ask myself, okay, well, where can I hunt down kind of this limiting line of tension? So for me, what works is basically I just lean away. When I do that, if you think about what's going on in this hip, I'm basically taking this hip out of some external rotation. Right now I'm asking too much external rotation and it can't do it, so my knee comes up. But if I just lean into it a little bit, now my knee doesn't feel torqued, my leg's nice and flush to the ground. Now I can go butt back, chest forward, and find a much better little stretch kind of in the back of that tissue there. So if I'm in the wrong spot, I'm torquing the knee and I'm not quite getting kind of the perfect, most efficient stretch back there. So I'm just going to tilt my body a little bit, make it easier on my hip, and find the right entry point. If I challenge my hip at the wrong spot, I'm not getting as much out of it. This is a good spot for me to challenge it. Everything else feels good. And when I'm comfortable, when I'm not in pain, or when my joints or my bones aren't pressing up against the floor, I can push harder. I can be more efficient. I can get better kind of nervous system input because I can focus on what I'm doing versus like, my ankle hurts, or I'm twisting my knee. So find a good, comfortable position where you can introduce some good stretch. So then, same thing from there. So we get our 2-minute good active breathing stretch, get the nervous system to pick up on what's going on in this hip. And then it's the same 15-second down, 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 press, press, press. 15-second thinking about lifting the foot and pulling my chest forward while driving my hip back. So go ahead, hit pause. I got some good feedback. I'm just going to try to give you guys some breaks. So if you want to do this now, hit pause. Try your 2 minute, 15 second for a couple rounds there. When you're done, click back. We'll get to the back hip. All right, so now for the back hip. Well, quick little bit. So you can see, well, maybe it's hard to see, but this knee is nice and flush to the floor. So this hip back here has a little bit more external rotation. Like I said, it's super common. Even if you're discovering it now, it's probably been there all along and you just didn't know it. I grew up playing baseball my whole life. Any sort of rotational sport or rotational lifestyle, you're probably going to have some asymmetries kind of in your hips and in your shoulders and all across your body. So don't freak out if you're just discovering this now. Okay, so for the back hip, I have a lot of people basically just open up, reach their hand back, try to basically introduce some more internal rotation. So there's two ways to think about rotation. One is the hip rotating, the other is us rotating around the hip. So instead of trying to rotate the hip here, I'm just going to rotate my body around it. I find that good deep stretch. Now I'm going to use my torso again. So if I push my chest a little bit more forward, I get into some more internal rotation and stretch here. So I open up and press forward, find my 2 minute stretch. Same thing, press down, lift up. If you're finding that like ankles or feet or knees are kind of just pressing too hard into the floor, grab a mat, grab a second yoga mat, grab a pillow, just kind of place something underneath it to kind of make that tolerable. So again, take a break if you want to try this now. You're trying to hunt down kind of the best productive stretch. So 2 minute stretch, then 2 rounds of 15 seconds of pushing and pulling up. All right, so last bit. So even if yesterday's 90-90 felt good, or today those little changes made it click a little bit more, like, okay, I can get productive tension out of this, still try this seated version here, just because having more kind of variability is good for your nervous system, to have more kind of context. We don't, like I said, we don't want to just get good at sitting at 90-90 on the floor. We want to get good at controlling our body, creating more workspace, and kind of adding context to all these movements. So, you know, even if that felt great, sometimes try out the seated one, just because you'll probably find some different things. Everything is pretty position specific, so it's great to get good in the seated position or in the floor position, but it doesn't necessarily carry over to all the other positions. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're adding variability to these things. Let me grab our other cat box. Don't judge us. Somebody stole the one I was going to use. Just taking a nap on it. Okay, so so I need to grab, real quick, if I just sit in this chair, my knees are actually above my hips. So for me to get into the position I need, like, this is really challenging and I have to lean back. So I'm going to grab another couch cushion to boost myself up a little bit. All right, so my hips are higher than my knees now. So now I'm gonna basically do my 90-90, but from this seated position. So I'm in a little bit less kind of, I'm pretzeled up less, right? So this hip isn't internally rotated like on the floor. I have a little bit more space to work here. So same idea. I'm thinking butt back, chest forward. I can grab the couch, use what I need to do to get in this position. If I need to lean, twist, just thinking about finding that limiting line of tension back there. Get my 2 minute stretch, push into the pillow. Think about the foot kind of swinging down, rotating through the hip, and then we're just trying to lift and pull. Find more room that way. So 2 minute stretch, 15 down, 15 up. Same thing as on the floor, just a little bit different position. If you need to stop and try that, take some time. And then we can finish with internal rotation here. So if I look at what I would be on the floor, this is kind of my hip 90-90. Notice kind of the internal rotation on my back hip here. So if I do this seated, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this hip fall into internal rotation. So fall this way. It's fine if your heel comes off the floor. Get a good rotation there. Find that same kind of capsule stretch where you feel that little kind of discomfort stretch in the joint. Think about chest up, butt back. So here's my limit. Now instead of pushing into the floor with my foot, I'm going to meet pressure, press my knee, and try to drive into more external rotation here. So the whole concept of this is we're finding the end range of motion, then we're going to basically do work in the only direction we can. If I can't go any further internally, I'm going to press out for 15 seconds. That'll start clicking with the nervous system. That'll allow for more workspace, and then we can drive into more internal rotation this way. So again, 2-minute stretch. 15, don't let anything move. It's isometric so that your nervous system recruits as much tissue as possible. Press, press, press. Drive into more rotation there. So some tweaks on the floor. I gave you a few, but that's not exhaustive. This is really going to just be on you to figure out kind of where your body needs tension, where it feels comfortable enough that you can kind of push limits in that capsule. So if it's still not working for you, shoot me an email, post on the video. We can figure out kind of a different tweak for you because everybody's going to be a little bit different with this. Don't be afraid to try different stuff every day or every rep and just kind of see how it works out. You'll also notice over time, not only do you get kind of better and more efficient at controlling some of these movements, but as new space opens up, you'll have to kind of change it accordingly. So that 90-90 will hopefully start feeling more and more comfortable, which allows you then to take away some of these things or add in different angles, different things. So adapt with it kind of as it goes, and as you get better and as you get more space, kind of act accordingly. Continue to try to push a few millimeters or half an inch, whatever it is, kind of every time you do it. So make sure you're continuing to do your CARs and keep up with this. The next few days, I'm basically going to go over like now what. So we're opening up more space in the capsule for the your joints to be able to move better. But what do we do with it? So we'll cover some different exercises to kind of keep the progress coming. So have fun with this. Give me a shout if you need to, and I'll see you tomorrow.